So welcome, we're going to do the structural change during the period 1950 to 1990. And in the structural change, we are going to take two dimensions. One is the GDP and one is the occupational structure. Now, basically we find that any economy, or in this we're going to take the economy is divided into three broad sectors: primary, secondary, which concerns with manufacturing, and tertiary services. So we divide them into three parts, and we will see how the GDP has been affected by these, or what has been their contribution to GDP. And we're going to take two time periods, 1950 and we jump to 1990. So that one. And in occupational structure also, the three sectors, what has been the change in the occupational structure in the primary, secondary and tertiary. So basically this is a structural change. I've got some data which you can see. This is the data that you can look at. So in this, as you see the data, I'm just going to read out to you and explain the data. So sectoral composition of GDP, we mean the distribution of or the contribution of the three broad sectors, that is agriculture, industry and services of the economy, to its GDP. So primary, secondary and tertiary sectors to GDP. This is what we can see. So here the contribution of agricultural sector to GDP was 59% in 1950-51 and it declined to nearly 35% in 1990. So then again we find that the share of industrial sector rose from how much? 13% to 24.6% in 1991. And talking about the services sector, that also there has been a rise from 28 to 40.5% in 1990-91, as you can see. So the structural change in the composition of GDP shows that India is on the right path of development, because as the economy grows, it seems that the share of the agriculture sector declines, and that's exactly what it is. And the shares of industry and services increase, which is shown in the data here. Now, change in the occupational structure, as you can see here in the occupational structure, again there was a change. As you can see that occupational structure means the distribution of workforce among the three different sectors of the economy. So we'll take the same two time periods, 1950-51, 1990, and again it's the primary, secondary and tertiary sectors. And in this we find the rate of structural change has been in occupational distribution is slow and but steady. The share of the primary sector, as you see, can you see that? In the total workforce has actually declined from 72.1% in 1950-51 to 66.8% in 1990-91. And so on. I mean, then you have in share of secondary sector from 10.7 to 12.7, and the share of tertiary has increased from 17.2 to 20.5. So a remarkable fact about India is that while there has been a change in the share of the three sectors in the GDP, the similar shift has not taken place in employment. That's what they say. Well, because jobs could not be created in the secondary and tertiary sectors. And imagine there were like 43. What we find is that though there has been a jobless growth more or less in the other sectors of the economy. So with that, on this basis, then now we are going to do. You can see that we just finished with the growth of industry, growth and development of industry, agriculture, and foreign trade. So based on that, we just had a small summary about what were the structural changes in this time period.